Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Sumaya AI Wali, student at Rehan AI Teachers Training Institute Batch 21. Today we are diving into a topic that's often overlooked but so crucial: learning from failure. We'll explore how setbacks aren't the end, they're stepping stones to growth. Let's ask ChatGPT some key questions on this. Let's connect with it. Hey ChatGPT.
Hey there, I'm here and ready to help. What's on your mind today?
I have some questions about learning from failure to ask you.
Of course, I'd love to dive into that with you. What kind of aspects are you thinking about? Like personal setbacks, professional failure, or just broader reflections?
First of all, understanding failure. The first question is, what exactly does it mean to fail?
Ooh, that's a really good one. I mean, failure can mean so many different things depending on context, right? Like it might be not meeting a specific goal, or it could be a feeling of not living up to expectations. I'm curious, what does it mean to you?
Hmm, this is interesting. Failure is simply an outcome that didn't meet our expectations, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like an outcome that didn't align with what you were aiming for. And that can feel really different depending on how high the stakes were or how attached you were to the result. I think it's cool to unpack what kind of expectations you had going into.
Right. So I have second question. It is about why do people fear failure so much?
Ah, yeah, that's such a deep one. I think a lot of it is tied to our identity and self worth. Like, if we see ourselves as capable or successful, then failure kind of shakes that foundation. Plus, we're social beings, so sometimes failure feels like a public verdict, even when it's really just a personal hurdle.
I can totally relate to that.
Yeah, I think a lot of us can. And I guess the more we recognize that connection, the more we can separate our worth from just one outcome. It's a process, but it helps.
Right. Can
Yeah.
failure be a positive experience?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's often where we learn the most, right? Failure can show us what doesn't work, help us rethink strategies, and even build resilience. So it might sting, but it can be a huge stepping stone.
Right. The second set of questions is about emotional response. How should one deal with the disappointment of failing?
That's a really important one. I think it's all about giving yourself some space to feel those emotions without judgment. So, acknowledging the disappointment, but also reframing it. Like maybe asking yourself, what can I learn from this? Or how can I grow? And sometimes talking to someone you trust really helps too.
Makes sense. Is it normal to feel embarrassed after failing?
Yeah, it really is normal. I mean, a lot of us tie failure to a sense of public perception, like we think others are judging us. So, that embarrassment is kind of a natural response, even if it's just temporary.
That's reassuring. How can someone maintain confidence after a failure?
That's a great question. I think it really helps to focus on your strengths, remind yourself of past successes or the skills you bring to the table. And it's also about taking a step by step, setting small, achievable goals so you rebuild that trust in yourself over time.
Oh, I like that idea.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's a gradual process, but even small steps really do add up. If you ever want to talk through strategies or just reflect on it, I'm here.
Right. And other questions are about learning from mistakes. So the first question is about what's the first step in learning from failure?
Oh, I love that focus. I think the first step is really reflection, taking a moment to understand what happened, why it didn't work, and being honest with yourself about the gaps or decisions you made. Once you know that, you can really start to adjust and grow.
Right. How can failure teach resilience?
Yeah, that's a powerful one. When we fail and keep going, we prove to ourselves that we can handle setbacks. Over time, each failure is almost like a small training ground, building that grit so you trust yourself more next time.
That's powerful. Are repeated failures discouraging or helpful?
Yeah, they can be really discouraging. I mean, it's natural to feel that way, especially if it feels like you're hitting the same wall again and again. But I think even then, it's important to pause, recognize progress, and maybe adjust your approach. It doesn't define you, it just means you're still in the process.
I can see that happening in real life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people go through it, whether it's in careers, personal goals, or even relationships. So just knowing that it's part of the journey can make it a bit easier to navigate.
How does mindset affect our ability to learn from failure?
Oh, it's huge. If you have a growth mindset, like seeing failure as a chance to grow, you're way more likely to stay motivated and keep trying. But if you have a fixed mindset, it can keep you stuck because you might see failure as proof that you just can't do it.
Right. And I like this perspective.
Yeah, I'm glad it resonates. It really gives you a sense of empowerment. Like each failure is just another step, not a dead end. So you can keep moving forward with more confidence.
Can failure improve creativity?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you fail, we often have to try new approaches, which pushes us out of our comfort zone. And that kind of experimentation is really fertile ground for creative ideas to blossom.
Hmm. That's interesting. How do successful people view failure differently?
Yeah, a lot of successful people actually see failure as a necessary part of the journey. They tend to treat it as feedback, like a course correction, rather than a reflection of their worth. So they stay curious, keep experimenting, and they don't let setbacks stop them.
Hmm. I need to remember this.
Got it. I'll keep that in mind. And if you ever want to revisit it or dig deeper, just let me know.
Okay. So other questions are about practical strategies. Should we analyze failure immediately or wait?
That's a great question. I think it depends on you. If you're in a really emotional state, it might help to give yourself a bit of breathing room first so you process. But once you're ready, diving into an honest analysis pretty soon after can help you catch lessons while they're still fresh.
That makes sense. Means rushing isn't helpful, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to rush it because if you force yourself too soon, you might miss some valuable insights or just feel overwhelmed. So give yourself a little time, but don't stay stuck.
Right. How can journaling help after a setback?
Yeah, journaling can be really powerful. It lets you process your emotions, track patterns, and get some clarity. Plus, when you write it out, you often uncover insights you might not have noticed just thinking about it. So it's like a roadmap for growth.
Right, that's useful. Can sharing failures with others be useful?
Oh, definitely. Sharing your failures with others can build connection because it reminds you that you're not alone. Plus, you might get fresh perspectives or even practical advice you hadn't considered. It's kind of a relief to realize others are learning from missteps too.
All right. How do you turn a failure into an opportunity?
I think it starts with reframing the failure, not as a dead end, but as a lesson. So once you've reflected on what went wrong, you ask yourself, what's the next step I can take with this new knowledge? And often that little shift can open up new paths you wouldn't have considered before.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, exactly. And it takes some practice, but once you start seeing those small shifts, it really changes how you engage with challenges. So you end up growing stronger each time.
That's interesting. So, ChatGPT, what role does feedback play in overcoming failure?
Oh, feedback is huge. I mean, it's like a compass. It helps you see what worked, what didn't, and where you can improve. When you get constructive feedback, it points you in the right direction so you don't stay stuck and you can fine tune your approach.
So, I mean, this is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the key is being open to it, like not just hearing the feedback, but really listening, reflecting, and using it as fuel for your next step. That's where the real transformation happens.
What about mind and habit changes? Can failing change long-term habits?
Yeah, it definitely can. I mean, when you fail at something, especially if it's tied to a habit, it kind of forces you to pause and rethink what's not working. So over time, those failures can prompt you to adjust your routines, build new strategies, and eventually form better, more sustainable habits.
Right, makes sense. How do failures shape leadership skills?
Ooh, that's a really interesting run. I mean, when leaders face failure, especially publicly, it humanizes them. It gives them empathy, humility, and a willingness to take calculated risks. So by learning from failure, they actually become more resilient, adaptable, and inspiring to their teams.
I didn't realize that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it really is. And I think once you see failure as part of the leadership journey, it kind of shifts how you handle setbacks. You're not just leading through success, you're leading through challenges too.
Right. Does failing make someone more adaptable?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, every time you fail and adjust, you're basically expanding your capacity to pivot. So you get used to uncertainty, you become more resourceful, and you don't shy away from change. You kind of lean into it.
That's really insightful. What about motivation and persistence? How can one stay motivated after repeated failures?
Yeah, that's a big one. I think it really helps to reconnect with your bigger purpose, like why you started in the first place. And breaking goals down into smaller, manageable steps can keep you from feeling overwhelmed. And of course, celebrating small wins along the way helps keep that spark alive too.
So you mean small wins matter,
Exactly. They really do. I mean, each small win builds momentum and reminds you that progress is still happening, even if the big goal is still out of reach. So those little milestones really fuel persistence.
what about if we celebrating small wins after a setback? Does it help?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like a balance. You're acknowledging that, yes, a setback happened, but you're also recognizing the progress you're still making. So it keeps you motivated and reminds you that you're still moving forward, even if it's just a bit at a time.
Right. How do failures influence future risk taking?
That's a great point. I mean, failures can make you more cautious at first, but if you process them well, they also make you wiser. So you might take smarter risks. You're not reckless, but you're also not paralyzed by fear. You're just more prepared.
Interesting. So ChatGPT can failure lead to unexpected opportunities?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, sometimes a failure forces you to pivot in a direction you never considered. Maybe a new path opens up or you discover a hidden strength. So failure, even though it stings, can kind of redirect you towards something really valuable.
Right. The last question, how do we know when to keep trying versus change direction?
Ooh, that's a really nuanced one. I think it comes down to a mix of reflection and data. So if you're consistently seeing no progress or the cost is really high, it might be time to pivot. But if you still see small signs of progress and your purpose still feels aligned, then staying the course might be worth it.
So that's practical advice. Last advice from your side.
Yeah, I'd say be kind to yourself in the process. Learning from failure is a practice. So stay curious, keep adjusting, and trust that each step, even the missteps, is part of your growth journey.
Thank you so much, ChatGPT.
You're so welcome. I'm really glad we could talk through all of this. And if you ever need to revisit any of it or just need a boost, I'm here for you.
Thank you. So, failure is not the opposite of success. It's a part of the journey. Reflecting, adopting, and staying resilient turns every setback into a setup for something better. This is it. Thank you so much for listening. This is Sumaya Ayayuali signing off. Allah Hafiz.